Hello students, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to study what are the conservation strategies we can take to save the biodiversity. So see beta, first of all, there are two strategies are there. One is in situ conservation. Second one is ex situ conservation. In situ, we are actually dividing into two areas. One we are making as hotspots. Second, we are making as a protected areas. In the protected areas, we are going to make biosphere reserve, we can make national park, we can make wildlife sanctuaries, we can have sacred groves, we can have sacred plants and lakes. Clear beta? So these are all coming in the in situ. Now for ex situ. For ex situ, I'm just writing it here, please try to understand. There will be botanical gardens, zoological park, wildlife safari park, you are having gene bank, seed bank, cryopreservation, in vitro fertilization, and tissue culture. So this is just a mind map for the conservation strategies. Either we can do in situ conservation strategy, okay, or we can do ex situ. So in ex situ, these are the different lists, and for in situ, either we will make hotspots or we will declare as a protected areas. Now let us see from the NCR. Now see beta, how do we conserve diversity? So when we have to conserve and protect the whole ecosystem, obviously biodiversity at all level, whether it is genetic level or species level or community level, will be protected. We save the entire forest to save the tiger. And this approach is known as in situ approach. So in situ means on situ conservation. Is it clear? In situ means on situ conservation. But if suppose the plant or animals are in the situation where they are endangered or threatened, so when there is a situation when you are finding the animal or plant is endangered or threatened, and it needs urgent measure to save it from extinction, then which is the best desirable approach, beta? That time the desirable approach is ex situ. So ex situ is a desirable approach in which condition? When you are finding that the plant or animal species is threatened or endangered and it needs urgent measure to save it. Now try to understand beta what is difference in endangered and what is difference in threatened. See beta, endangered means the one which is at the risk of extinction. If we will not take care, it will immediately get extinct. But threatened means its population is low. If we are not taking care, it may become endangered and finally lead to extinction. Is it clear? So understand better here. Endangered are the one which are at the risk of extinction. Immediately they will go for extinction if we will not take care. Threatened are the one whose are not in the endangered. Right now their population is low. If we will not take care, they will become endangered and then they will go for extinction. Is it clear? then they will go for extinction. So difference is clear, beta. So now for in situ conservation. Obviously, there is a conflict between the development and the conservation when the how to conserve and what are the methods to use it. So many nations were finding it unrealistic and economically also not possible to save all biodiversity, because number of the species which are waiting to be saved from extinction, they are more as compared to the resources which we are having it. So on the global basis, this problem was addressed by senior conservationists, and they identified for maximum protection certain hotspots should be made. Now, what are the criteria to make these hotspots? Okay. Now, see, the important criteria to make this hotspot was, first of all, we should find high degree of endemism and we should find high species richness. So let me explain you. Wait. So hotspot, first of all, this concept was given by Norman Mayer. Concept was given by Norman Mayer. And the criteria to make hotspot, there were three criteria. First of all, they should the area should have very high species richness. Area with high species richness. Now, what do you mean by species richness? Species richness means number of species present per unit area. So they are considering that area where is high species richness. Second is area which has a species which are endemic, which has endemic species. Now, what do you mean by endemic species? Which are endemic species are those species which are found there only and not anywhere else. Then the area which is at high accelerated loss, which has high habitat loss. So you can't save each and every species. Okay, so what they have done, they decided, let us make hotspot. Now, what are the criteria to make hotspots? They have to see if the area should have high species richness, then area should have high degree of endemism also. Okay, this should be also high. And if it is going for high habitat loss, so that area will be declared as a hotspot. The total number of hotspots all over the world, initially when they made, total hotspot, initially were 25. Later, 9 were also added. The now total hotspots, how many are present now? Total is 34. In which India is having 3 hotspots. So India has 3 hotspots. And the area which the hotspots are occupying, I'm just writing it here, please, beta. Area which they are occupying is less than 2% of the land area. But if suppose we try to save them, if we try to work on these hotspots, I think so we can reduce mass extinction. We can reduce mass extinction by 30%. We can reduce it. Though the area is less, the area is only less than 2%. But if we work, we can reduce the mass extinction by 30%. Is it clear? Now let me show you from UNCR. So when on the global base, this problem was addressed, we cannot save each and every one. So they identified maximum protection for certain hotspots they identified. So what are the criteria? These are the regions which have high level of species richness and they have high degree of endemism. What do you mean by endemism? Means species are confined to that region and they are not found anywhere else. Is it clear? And these are the also regions of accelerated habitat loss. So 3 criteria already I have explained you. I think so now you are able to match from the NCERT. Initially, how many hotspots they made, Peter? Initially, only 25 hotspots were made. Later on, 9 more were added. So now total number of hotspots of the world is 34. Clear, beta? 3 hotspots are of India only. 3 hotspots are present in India. Which 3? Number 1, Western Ghat and Sri Lanka. Number 2, Indo-Burman. Number 3, Himalayas. They are covering our very rich diversity area. Is it clear, beta? All the biodiversity hotspots will cover less than 2% of the earth land area. This only I try to explain you. They cover less than 2% land area. Okay, which is actually having large number of species. And if we try to strictly protect these hotspots, we can reduce the mass extinction by almost 30%. So I think so first method of in situ hotspot, this much is clear to you. Now see beta, I told you that we are having protected areas now. So in India, ecological, unique and biodiversity rich are legally protected. So how we are protecting it? By making biosphere reserve. So we are having 14 biosphere reserve. This is in our NCRT, but recent data is that the latest biosphere reserve which India government has made was Pana in MP, which is 18th biosphere reserve. Okay, if they ask you which is the recent one, then your answer will be Pana in MP. And if they give you how many hot biosphere reserve, so they will give you either number 14 or either number 18, not together. So if they give you number 14, then you have to take this one. Then we are making second one is national park, which we are having 90 national park. Third, we are having wildlife sanctuaries, which is 448 wildlife sanctuaries. And in the summary area, it is giving more than 450 wildlife sanctuaries. Is it clear? So these are the protected areas. Now let me explain you biosphere reserve. Now see better, these are example of biosphere reserve. How do they make it? In the center, if you see, this is a core zone. Okay, but see, this is the core zone where there is no human activity. Then second is your buffer zone. Okay, this is your buffer zone, which is allowed for the tourists to visit, and it is allowed for the grazing of the animals of these peoples who are living outside. In which area they are living? They are living in the transition zone. So actually in the biosphere reserve, when they are making it, they are making 3 zones. Center is core zone where no human activity is allowed. Then outermost is a transition zone where the settlement of human is allowed, crop cultivation is allowed, means local tribal peoples. And the in between them, this is the buffer zone, which is open for the tourism and the grazing of the animals which are living outside in the transition zone. Their animals, they are allowed to for grazing. So this is the one biosphere reserve which is aiming to save the diversity, not only at the plant or animal level, we try to save the tribe peoples also. Okay, so biosphere reserves are the one which are aiming to save the diversity along with the local tribal people as an integrated part. They believe they are also the important part. Now let me show you how many biosphere reserves are in the. Now see beta, these are the list of the biosphere reserve of India. Our NCRT is telling us 14 biosphere reserve, but latest till now is 18. 18 biosphere reserve. This Pana is in MP. Okay. So this is the list is there. You have to just, you don't need to learn this list. You should just know the number. If we are having these many biosphere reserves. Okay. Now see beta, basic difference between national park and wildlife sanctuary. National park will focus on the conservation of both flora and fauna. So it will conserve both flora and fauna, means both plants and animals. Wildlife sanctuary will be focusing only on the conservation of animals. So when they are focusing, national park is focusing on saving both plants and animals. So cutting of trees is not allowed. It means private ownership will also not be allowed. The private ownership will not be allowed. But in case when we are in the wildlife sanctuary, we are focusing only to save animals, the cutting of the trees and felling of the woods and all these things will be allowed. So cutting of trees is allowed. And as a result, private ownership is also allowed here. Now see, but a few important national park. If you see, the first national park which India made, first was made in 1936, which was known as Haile National Park. Now it is named as Jim Corbett National Park. It is known as Jim Corbett National Park. Clear, beta? And it is one important national park which is meant for the saving of the tiger. Wildlife sanctuaries, if you have remember, beta. Ghana bird sanctuaries, okay, so you can make a list if you want. Culeggio Ghana bird sanctuary, name is telling it is going to save the bird. Then Dachigam sanctuary. Important animal is Hanglu, also known as Kashmiri stag. Musk deer. I'm just focusing what they ask in the question area. Okay, beta? Pariyar sanctuary. It is for elephant and leopards. So these are the few examples of the national park and wildlife sanctuary. Okay, up till here, I hope so. Protected areas is clear. Now see, beta, India has also the history of religious and cultural traditions, which emphasize to protect nature. In many culture, in our many areas, we are finding tracts of forest, they are set aside, and all the trees and wildlife within were venerated. Venerated means you can understand this way that they are actually given a lot of respect. And as a result, we are trying to give total protections. It means we are making sacred grove. So if question is asked, how can you save the venerated plants and animals, then your answer will be sacred grove. List of the sacred grove example is Khansi and Jemtia hills in Meghalaya. You can write here, okay, but I'm just writing it here in Meghalaya. You can understand. Second is Aravali Hills in Rajasthan. Then third is Western Ghat in Karnataka and Maharashtra. The Western Ghat in two areas you have to remember. That is Karnataka and Maharashtra. And fourth is Sarguja, Chanda and Bastar area of Madhya Pradesh. So Sarguja, Chanda and Bastar area of Madhya Pradesh. So these are the areas which are having sacred grove. Clear, beta? Now, last very important line. In Meghalaya, sacred grove is the last refuges for large number of rare and threatened plants. Is it clear? Rare means they are also risk of extinction. They are endemic and threatened already. I tried to explain you means right now their number is less, but they are not at the risk of extinction. If we don't take care, they might go for extinction. So please make a note this way on the side. And I think so in situ conservation is clear. Now let me explain you ex situ. Now see beta ex situ conservation strategy. So in this approach, threatened animals and plants, they are taken out from their natural habitat and they are kept in a special setting where they are protected and given special care. So number one, we discuss zoological park, botanical gardens, wildlife safari parks. Okay, there are many animals that have become extinct in wild, but they continue to be maintained in the zoological park. Now, advancement is going on, and now in the recent year, they have advanced beyond keeping the threatened species in enclosure. Now they are working with the keeping the genes also. So fourth is gametes gene bank, okay, of threatened species can be preserved in a viable means living and fertile conditions for long period by using cryopreservation technique. So they are using cryopreservation to make a gene bank. egg can be fertilized in vitro. So I told you in vitro fertilization is starting of this topic. I gave the list also. And they are propagating the plant by using tissue culture technique. The seventh is tissue culture technique. And seeds of different strains are also kept for the long period in the seed bank. So these are the different methods by which they are trying to save diversity by removing them from natural habitat, because it's not possible to save each and every. So they are removing it from natural habitat and they're saving it outside from their natural habitat. Is it clear, beta? So beta, see here in the summary also they're telling it ex-situ conservation include protective measures for threatened species in zoological park, in botanical gardens, in vitro fertilization. Okay, beta. Wildlife safaris, we have studied there. In vitro fertilization, tissue culture technique, cryopreservation of the gametes, that is gene bank, and finally seed bank. So total here also they have given it. I hope so up till here you are able to understand each and every point. Now see, biodiversity has no political boundaries, and its conservation, it is a collective responsibility of all nations. So convention on biodiversity, the historic convention on biodiversity, that is Earth Summit, is held in Rio de Janeiro in 1992. So you can write down Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro. Clear, beta? In which year? Remember, 1992, where all nations are called to take measure to save diversity. First, they have to save the diversity. Second, sustainable use of its benefit. After that, World Summit was held. World Summit was held on the sustainable development in 2002 in Johannesburg, South Africa. So you can write down World in 2002. Where, beta? In South Africa. Is it clear? So please learn properly, beta. Earth Summit in which year? 1992 in Rio de Janeiro, focusing on two things, conservation and sustainable use of its benefit. Okay, and what is the World Summit? World Summit was held in 2002 in Johannesburg in South Africa, and their focus was sustainable development. And how many countries have taken the pledge? Beta, 190 countries have taken the pledge to achieve by 2010 reduction in the rate of biodiversity loss. At which level? Global level, regional level, and local level. Is it clear? So there, how many countries, beta? Please remember 190 countries. Okay, beta? 190 countries have taken a pledge to reduce the loss of biodiversity at 3 levels, global, regional, and local. So I think so all the videos which I have made till now for biodiversity has helped you to learn each and line of NCERT properly. Thanks for watching it.